Safe and sound in a hotel room, this baby boy and his mother survived a traumatic birth during a raid by armed men on their hometown. Fatou Abdallah Ali was separated from her husband and 3 other children as they tried to escape fighting in Palma. She delivered her baby alone, without medical treatment, on the side of a road.
I was tired while I was running, and I was left behind by the group I was with. Then it got dark and I felt really sick and I couldn't go on. I knew it was time to go into labour. I slept right where I was and gave birth alone.
Armed groups stormed Palma nearly 2 weeks ago, killing dozens of people. Some of those displaced have arrived in the city of Pemba, the provincial capital of Cabo Delgado province.
This is what happened in Palma. The armed men were there for 15 hours. The population fled. People died on the boat, in the water. Others hid in the bush. The armed men were looking for people to kill.
Aid workers say while tens of thousands of people fled the attack, only a small proportion have arrived in Pemba and other safe places. Even so, the authorities in Pemba say they're struggling to cope with the influx.
The infrastructure in Pemba will not support the number of inhabitants. This city was prepared to accommodate a certain number of people, but now we have a lot more. They're exposed to COVID-19, plus the amount of crime will increase.
Leaders from neighbouring countries held talks in Zimbabwe's capital on Thursday, and more talks about the violence in northern Mozambique are scheduled to be held next week. These displaced people say they're desperate to return home, but only when it's safe to do so. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Let's get more on the situation there now from Shirley Thakral from the World Food Programme, who's in Pemba, Mozambique. And so we've been reporting on the dozens of people killed and the thousands who've been displaced after that brutal attack in Palma. What have we learnt about the situation inside the town? Are there people still trapped there?
Thanks very much. Yeah, we do believe that there are still an unverified number which IOM has given of something like 23,000 people who are still in the surrounding area. The United Nations, we run the humanitarian air service, and we've been running evacuation flights since the 24th of March and have been able to evacuate 380 people. 76% of them have been women and children. So most critically, what we need to remember is that the ferry journey and in your report, quite rightly, there are sort of fewer numbers, and we obviously expect more, who've made this really, awful, treacherous journey, 24 hours on a ferry. I was at an accommodation centre yesterday. These are set up by the government, where the displaced people have arrived, and just remember that they have witnessed horrors, houses burnt, gunshots. One lady is a mother of four children. Her eldest daughter is 2 months pregnant. She arrived with malaria. She said that, she ran into the sea as the water was rising because she was being sort of chased by somebody with a gun. And these are people who've had no food, no water, and have just been sort of foraging for what they have. So we've been, it's been, the most priority for us, as well as other UN agencies, is to make sure that they've got the basics. They've got enough food for the next 15 days. They're having hot meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and fruit as well. But Cabo Delgado already has the highest number of chronic malnutrition. So for us, foremost, children is the priority.
Yes, of course, children are the priority, and really thousands or tens of thousands of people have been affected by this crisis in Palma. I know that some of your operations were disrupted because of security issues. Do you have access to help people now? Can you tell us more about the assistance that you are offering them and whether you have the resources to meet their needs?
Because of the deterioration of the security situation, we made a decision on Friday for the time being to temporarily pause the evacuation flights from Ofungi to Pemba. We're still supporting other operations through our flights, and food assistance in northern Mozambique. Some people will have fled to Luanda. They'll be on foot. We're sort of still seeing an influx of people. And with this operation itself, and this is before the attacks, its costs, we require $10.5 million a month to provide assistance. So, this is something that, we're planning to reach 750,000 people, and these include those that have been displaced, plus remembering that people have gone into the host communities here. They will have arrived, some will have gone to the centres set up, but some will have gone to stay with their families. We've seen households that have probably gone from 6 people to 10, 20 people in the household, so they also need support.
What about the medium to long-term problems resulting from this? The analysis is that it's a real turning point in the crisis for al-Shabaab to have the sophistication to stage an attack like this. You have people who've left their lands and livelihoods, their homes and harvests, and actually the number that have fled 7 times higher than a year ago in early 2020. So this sort of malnutrition and food insecurity, presumably it's going to get worse in the years ahead.
This is right. Also, this is all compounded by a year of the pandemic, where people have lost income, they've left, food prices have increased, and this has, led to just a domino effect where there's ever more impoverishment, food insecurity, malnutrition. We're seeing 950,000 people in this region, who are food insecure, and that's in Cabo Delgado, Niassa, and Nampula, and they're facing, severe hunger, and that's people that are going to bed hungry. That's people that are missing food. We're in a Holy Week now, and I think we just need to remember that we need to make sure that we have enough food and emergency supplies for those who most need it.
Thank you very much, Shelley Thakral, joining us there from the World Food Programme.